Hello and welcome to Cox Connections. I'm your host, Gary McCullum, Senior Vice President and General Manager for Cox Hampton Roads. Earlier this year, Charles May was named the new Special Agent in charge of the Naval Criminal Investigative Service on board Naval Station Norfolk. With him is his protege, Tony Graddy, who serves as the Chief of Base Police at the Joint Military Base Little Creek, Fort Story. Their main focus is not to keep only military members and their loved ones safe, but the entire community of Hampton Roads. Welcome to the show.
Sir, thank you very much for being here.
And full disclosure, you and I went to James Madison together a couple of 100 years ago. And
so
I'm really proud. Congratulations on the new role, and we're really proud of you. And you talk a little about, in this new role.
Yes, sir.
What would you like the community to know about the organization?
Well, sir, I tell you what, the main thing is that NCIS is a very diverse criminal investigative organization for the Navy and the Marine Corps. Our primary mission is to keep the Navy and the Marines safe and their families in our environment. The mission for NCIS is simple: prevent terrorism, protect the secrets and the technologies of the Navy, and also to reduce crime and all of the elements of that crime. But if there's one thing that I would like to share as far as the agency is concerned, is that we're diverse and we're always looking for folks that are interested in law enforcement, folks that want to take on the challenge of travel, and to embark in a very interesting career.
Right, and a very needed. What you guys are doing is absolutely, it's life-saving.
Yes, sir.
Now, the military, clearly it's integrated completely within the community here. Talk to me about how NCIS, what kind of relationship does it have with the local community?
Great question.
And is that important?
Yes, sir, absolutely important. In fact, that's absolutely one of the priorities of NCIS. Folks know about the TV show and they see it. It's kind of worldwide,
one of my
global.
favorite shows.
Yes,
yeah.
So folks enjoy that. But the reality of it is, Gary, is we are a local law enforcement agency, just like every other local law enforcement agency in the area, and we take great pride in aligning ourselves with the locals to support and to leverage partnerships and to fight crime in the area. And we do that quite simply by ensuring that the communication is always open and transparent, making sure that we understand the equities of the locals and their functions in law enforcement, and then trying to help them understand a little bit more about NCIS and how we function.
Now, you grew up in the area,
Yes,
so
sir.
you also know the weather patterns, hurricane seasons, and how we have to be ready for that. How does NCIS and your role, is there a role in terms of dealing with potential disasters like that just because of where we are located?
Absolutely, Gary. And it goes back to those partnerships that you spoke to previously. NCIS is involved in all of the crisis management regarding how the Navy plans for these hurricanes. And we sit on the committees that are also jointly affiliated with the locals. And here again, when a crisis incident occurs, whether it be weather, whether it be a catastrophic event, whether it be some crime, we all, because of the partnerships and the relationships that we have, we're able to come together as a team and to function against that threat. And
you
yes,
talk
sir.
about team. Clearly in a catastrophe, in a catastrophic event, leadership is the key. What are some of the principles around leadership at NCIS that cause you guys to be so successful?
Well, I tell you what, I'm glad you asked that question because I get a chance to pitch what our director feels are the most important things for a leader. He terms it IACT, and that is an acronym for integrity, accountability, courage, and teamwork. Every member of NCIS lives by that mantra. We feel that if you come to the table with those traits, knowing that you're a representative of NCIS and you carry yourself in that way and you demonstrate those traits, that folks will follow. Folks will want to be a part of your team.
I got to remember that. That's
Yes,
a great
sir.
acronym.
Thank you.
Tony, let me turn to you. We got a few minutes left. As chief of a joint military base, how do you properly prepare military members and their families, frankly, for disasters like what we were just talking about?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I work very closely with the emergency manager officer. He works in my precinct, and we do quarterly training with all the tenant commands and ensure they're ready and prepped for any man-made disasters or natural disasters and how they should deal with it. And then in turn, they can take that home and incorporate that with their families.
So as a non-military person, what can they learn from the Navy in terms of how to deal with a man-made disaster?
The best thing I could offer is that they should definitely pay attention to their the media, the networks, because they put out a lot of information, and make sure they do a preparedness plan for any hurricanes that are coming. Make sure they have a kit so that they have to take off very quickly. They can do so.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really important. I think our listeners are hearing both you talk about personal responsibility. When you look at some of the day-to-day challenges that you face, Tony, what are some of the things, or some stories that you could share with us about, I know we only have about a minute left, but are some things that stick out in terms of what makes your role pretty exciting?
Just dealing with military, you have a combination of military and civilians working together. We have to, and also NCIS, the different organizations that you have to coordinate with, even the outside police agencies. It's just a difficult task sometimes getting everybody to meet together. Right. But once we do, everything runs smoothly.
Everything runs smoothly. And even though, again, we're military, but at the same time, the civilians and military, I think we have to work together. And I think that's one of the things I hear the most, that's why this is such a great community, because you see that collaboration.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for being here, Tony, in your role, and Chuck, I'm just so happy to see you in your role. Congratulations, and you're going to have to come back and do this again.
Be glad to.
Well, right after the break, the Virginia Department of Transportation plays vital roles as an emergency response agency. Find out what you need to know about closures and evacuation routes when there is the threat of a disaster.